We's back. We's back in the old world.
Alrighty, chaps, let's have another run-up on this video. This is my third attempt to do this video, which is the third video in the series of the 3 legs of the hobby, which is collecting models, painting models, and then playing the game. This one's about playing the game, and this one's kicking my butt. I'm going to try and tackle it. This is my third run-up at it. Hopefully, I'll get somewhere with it this time. So settle in, because I'm going to. I've got my notes. I've had about 15 cups of coffee. I've done my work. It's a Saturday. Hopefully we'll get it done. So actually playing the game. You've collected models, you've painted models. Let's start with there are many ways to play the game, which seems kind of stupid because it's one rule book and everybody's on the same page, hopefully, and you play the game. Except that's not true. The game can be played, the way it's normally played is a points versus points, tournament, and competitively. Kind of like, well, the way 40k is developed. It's get your models, write your army lists, and fight. Which, to me, is not my favorite way of playing. I prefer a narrative game, or a campaign, where one battle affects the next, and tells a story, and you play the game to tell a story. You don't necessarily play it to be ultra competitive. It's nice to win, I get it, but you don't want to do it by you don't want to ruin the story to do it. So, for example, there are game-breaking lists. So, if I am dwarves and I show up with 15 gyrocopters, you're just playing the numbers now, and that's not a good narrative. So when the game comes out, it doesn't take very long, and we're all waiting for it, is how do players break the game? Because they do. And it's the competitive players that do it. The ones looking for the edge and the loopholes to get, more advantage on the table. And I find that I don't like that, but, some people are a lot more competitive than I am. I'm not very competitive at all. So, but breaking the game to win, I don't like it. So the current version is called Linehammer. There's videos out there calling this one Linehammer because of the way the number of attacks versus the rank bonus that you get isn't very well thought out. This edition, somehow, I mean, it is, but that loophole of having a line where people that normally couldn't reach you can reach you, so their attacks offset the loss you're making having ranks, is stupid. That is common sense. That should just be the first person that ever did that. People say, yeah, I know it's not written down. It's just stupid. Stop it. Allow 1 or 2 left or right to have a free attack, and then the rest of the 20 line just can't reach the guys. All right? Or every round wrap around a little bit. I don't know. But that's stupid. Linehammer, whoever came up with that, and whoever's still doing that, just needs to be taken outside and given a stern talking to with a bat. No, I'm not condoning violence. Just the same with the person that shows up with 15 gyrocopters in their dwarf army every time they play. Stop doing it. Competitive play is fun, and can be fun, and is a good way of getting a balanced game if you're going by the point system and not using loopholes and broken army lists. But what's a lot more fun is, if you have a narrative game, and there's a reason for a dwarf to have 15 gyrocopters. Let's say you're attacking somewhere that's got, this is where they're made, and the dwarves have 15 gyrocopters there. But they're going in, and you are given, reasonable forces to take on 15 gyrocopters. Because the points are just, a down the middle gauge. Once you start weighting certain things, the points are no longer balanced. So, all things equal, balanced point game should give you a balanced game. but when people start doing stupid things, it doesn't work. Now, in a narrative game, if somebody really has 15 gyrocopter models and wants to play with them, fine, there we go. We write a scenario, but you weight it differently. So I prefer campaign games, and also where this battle influences the next battle, which influences the next one, etc., etc. There used to be Mighty Empires, if anybody remembers, with those hexagonal things where you could fight over terrain and actually invade and grow your army and things like that, and invade and take over people's stuff. That's fun. I mean, that's a campaign. I think the reason that doesn't happen anymore is because there's a lot of downtime work, which we should be used to. I mean, we do the painting and the collecting. That's a lot of time. But there's a lot of, bean counter work in the downtime to see, and there's a lot of work writing the campaigns and trying to get them balanced. And, somebody has to do it. Most people just want a game that way because we've been kind of trained anymore, is show up, play with your points. Go online, look at lists, see which ones are more effective because you lost and you don't like it. I lost 3 games and only played 4 while everybody's going online and getting better lists than me. I better go online and get lists, and then it's brinkmanship, one-upmanship, and it's boring. To me, it's boring. Anyway, so playing the game has, for me, and maybe for some other people, I don't know, discussions down below, it kind of gets boring. And it's the old world, which I don't know if that suffers. I never got into I did get into old 40k playing the game, but it became, I don't know, 40k to me, the ranges are wrong. You got stuff on the table that should be shooting for miles, and it's all squished on this table. Everyone's hid behind a rock, and if you move that behind the rock, you get gunned down and killed. I don't know. And the great big hordes of things just bashing into each other. Now, in fantasy, that's kind of the way battles work back then, medieval. You get lines of people crushing into each other, and then you had some missile fire to soften them up. It works for fantasy. For me, I'm not knocking anybody 40k or anything. This is just me saying why I can't get into 40k as much. Fantasy, yeah, I mean, it's still fantasy, but it seems less abstract. I know it still is, but it seems less abstract. Getting back to the number of opponents available to you is a thing, I call it the army burden. If there are just 2 people that know each other and play Warhammer, how many armies do they have to make it interesting? Whereas if you have 10 people with 1 army each, so, or you have people that have smaller armies, say they got a 500-point army, they can play without, allied together, so you get a 4-player game going, 1,000 points total, on each side. And the reason that the amount of opponents that you have access to leads me to the next thing, which are the barriers to playing, especially barriers to new players, bringing in new players. A lot of this Warhammer the Old World is old buggers like me that remember playing it, so there's a huge nostalgia part of it. The fear I have is that people want to get into it, and there are just too many barriers now. So if we look at, the big one's the price. And that's always kind of been an issue, but it seems to me it's gone stupid lately. The prices on stuff is just, I don't know. You have to take a life of crime just to just to support your habit. But I mean, that's one. And then the other one is availability. Try and buy a Tomb King's army. The only thing you got left really now is eBay. Everything's out of stock. A big chunk of stuff's out of stock. Apart from whatever the new army is that they're bringing out, which it seems to me that's what they're doing. They're bringing them out 1 army at a time, and then enough to sell to the people that might want them. and then that's it. This is not going to be a continuously supported thing, I don't think. So unless they got something else coming, but then it's the dwarves and the orcs and goblins are out. They got some of those in stock. You can go buy them, but they'll be out of stock. And then, the Tomb Kings are already gone. The Bretonians are gone. So each wave as it comes out, I think, will be sold out, and that's it. So another barrier to entry for new players. So you have to go on eBay and buy them at a marked up amount. But there's other barriers to especially new players. When you're new into the hobby, your skill at painting is not going to be as high. Now, it's been helped with things like contrast paints, and there's YouTube videos on how to basically paint a miniature. However, people are still going to be self-conscious about how their miniatures are painted, how well they're painted or not well. And a lot of people don't help. I've had comments about on my channel, and I don't have a lot of people watch, but I've had the comments that people don't want to play people whose figures aren't painted properly. Well, I get people being lazy and just not putting an effort. No, nobody wants to play them. But if someone's put an effort in and they look a bit now, well, I'm not a good painter. I get them table ready. That's it. To a standard that I can live with. If somebody gets picky with the paint jobs, another barrier, especially for a new player. Older players can say, yeah, whatever, you're putting too much weight on the paint job or whatever, I'll just play someone else. New painters are going to get kind of scared away, from playing if we get snobby about paint jobs or minis. If I cannot source a mini and people don't want to play with proxies, I can't play. They're not going to want to play. Another barrier is going to be things like travel distance. So as we get less players, because if there are less players, the distances to travel to find a game become longer. For example, I'd probably have to go to, Des Moines. I think there's a GW store. So if I have to drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back, that's 4 hour round trip. I ain't doing it. And I don't know many people that have a job that want to, drive that far or travel that far. In Europe, I guess, getting on a bus or whatever. If you have to go too far, you're probably not just. I think that's going to put a dampener on some stuff. Again, opponent saturation is a thing, is an important thing playing the game. You have to have enough opponents within reach with armies to play the game. And then the game's got to be appealing the way it was meant to be. That's the other thing with the game, though. It's chicken and egg. So what came first? Or what's more important, the game or the models? What came first were the models. The game was written to sell models and has evolved. But what are you going to do with the models if there's no game? Now, there's many people that do collect and paint and never play. So, really the game is secondary. Because having the game and no models, no one does that. But having the models and painting them, but no game, people do that. So the game really is secondary, if you look at it like that. Which I think is a shame, but. So to me, I think this is going to be the final edition, and I'm fine with that. What they should do is learn, or what will happen, I'm hoping, eventually, is this will go the way of War Master, in which they'll just go hands off of it. They'll say, look, we can't do the fantasy, we can't copyright it, we can't make an IP out of it properly. So, and it goes the way of War Master, in which players will take these rules online and refine them and bring out the armies and play test them and have like a players' council that then, steers it forward, because the company keeps screwing it up, to be honest, because their idea is to make money. The player's idea is to make a good game, and in the spirit that the game is intended. Warmaster is an awesome game, and it's way better than it was when Games Workshop were running it. So, maybe that's the way, at least I'm hoping this is the way that this game will go. So, and there's a ton of other things that came up that are on my notes, and I'm just, I'll be sitting here for 3 hours if I go through everything in the complexity of, the actual gaming part of the hobby. Should you have a game master? Yes, but if you haven't got enough people, how can you have a game master when there's only 2 of you playing? You got to find a third person who wants to play, so you have to cycle around. Nobody's got time. Yada yada yada. All kinds of stuff. So have the discussion below. How important is the game to you guys? Or is it, having the models? And is the competitive thing what drives you to play the game and get the models? And I'm talking Warhammer Fantasy, not 40k. 40k is tournament heavy. I mean, extremely. So, but the fantasy, people getting back into it. If there's anyone new into it, are you looking forward to tournament play, to a narrative play? Do you just don't care if you play or not? There's a lot of people like that too. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that we spend so much time collecting and painting pieces for a game that doesn't get played very much. So if it was chess, wouldn't be a lot of work, but it isn't chess, it's Warhammer. So let me know. And if you've watched this far, thank you very much for watching. And let me know your comments, like, subscribe, all those things, because I do get endorphins from it. I never thought I would, but I kind of do. And, enjoy yourselves. Thank you.